So, as I trail, this next version we're going to do gives people a 20% discount in the special case where they're both a student and either young, so under 18, or old, over 65. Okay, and there's a number of ways of doing this. So, in example 12 in the downloads, you can do what are called nested if statements, if-else if statements. So, here we've got if they're a student, if the age is less than 18 or age is less than 65, then we say congratulations, you're entitled to 20% discount. If they're not true, if that's not true, then they only get 10% because they're a student. If they're not a student, then we check their age. If the age is less than 18 or greater than 65, then they get their 10% discount. And if none of those things are true, then sorry, you must pay the regular price. Okay, this is we call nested ifs because one if block is nested inside another if block. You'll see there's the if here, if they're a student, and then there's another one nested inside it. So there are the conditions that we're looking at. The student and they're either young or old, or they're a student but they're not young or old, or they're not a student but they're young or old, or they're not a student and they're not young or old. So actually, those things give us another way of looking at it, and might be simpler to do it that way than to do it with these nested ifs. So another way of doing this is with what's called the AND operator. So AND is like OR, okay? It's kind of the reverse of OR. So in the case of OR, either this thing is true, or this thing is true, or this other thing is true. Any of those things are true, then the condition is true. In the case of AND, both things have to be true. Okay, and it kind of makes sense in English as well. So in this case, if they're a student and their age is outside, they're either young or old, we can say they get their 20% discount. Else, if they're a student but this isn't true, so if we get to this point here, this elif student message here, then they're a student but their age is somewhere between 18 and 65, then they get their 10% discount. If neither of those statements are true, then it must be the case that they're not a student, so we then check their age. And if the age is not young or old, then the else catches every other possibility, and they pay the regular price. Okay, so that uses this AND operator to combine conditions. And notice the brackets here. I've put the brackets in to make sure that it does that calculation first. So first it checks whether they're old or young, and if that's true and they're a student, then they get the 20%. Okay, so that's a version. It's a bit complicated. I don't particularly like that version. And in programming, and when I say it's complicated, it's got this congratulations, you're entitled to a 10% discount twice, and I don't like duplication. Generally, it's a good idea to avoid duplication in programming. So another way of doing that is to say if they're a student and they're old or young, then we give them a 20% discount. If that condition isn't true, so they're not both a student and old or young, then we can check whether they're a student or they're old or young. That one of those things might be true, even if not both of them are true. So one of those things, they might be a student, but they might be 21, or they might be 17 but not a student. Then they get their 10% discount, and then the last catch-all catches any other condition, and we give them the regular price. So it gets this version 14 gets rid of that duplicate message about the duplicate message about the 10% discount, and it's for me it's one of the clearest of these versions. There's still some duplication in there because we've got this. Notice this bit of code here where we're asking whether their age is less than 18 or greater than 65. Notice that's duplicated twice. So we could have another Boolean variable called child or senior, which just is set to be the outcome of this check here. So notice here, child or senior is set equal to ages less than or equal to 18 or ages greater than 65. Okay, so it's just checking whether they're either old or young. If either of those things is true, then the child or senior variable gets set to true, and so then we can use that. And so this version here, perhaps I think the conditions here are probably the clearest to read. So it says if a student and child or senior, you get 20% discount. Else if a student or child or senior, so if only one of those two things is true, you get 10% discount, and anything else you pay the regular price. Okay. But I find personally, I find that an awkward way of expressing things, and sometimes it's better to express the opposite. So it's someone who's not a child and who's not a senior citizen pays the regular price. Okay. So we could use a Boolean variable for this, which we call adult. Okay. So I'm trying to express in code whether they're between 18 and 65. And if they are, I'm going to call them adult. So I'm going to set this Boolean to true. So adult is true if the age is greater than 18 and the age is less than or equal to 65. Okay. And then, once we've done that, we've got this variable that says they're adult or they're not, and then we can use the not operator. And not just takes our Boolean variable and reverses it. So if they're adult, then not adult is true, and vice versa. If adult is set to false, then not adult, the expression not adult would be set to true. Okay, so now, next version then becomes, we ask them how old they are and their age, and then adult just checks whether the adult just checks whether they're over 18 or under 65, so between 18 and 65. It has to be an and, because it has to be, over 18 and under 65. Can't be over 18 or over 65, because then it would catch all the people who are over 65. So we check whether they're an adult by checking whether their age is between those two variables, and then the conditional expression here becomes if they're student and they're not adult, then they get 20% discount. Or if they're a student, if that's not true, if they're a student or they're not adult, so they're senior or a child, then they get 10% discount, and anything else they must pay the regular price, which is arguably more readable.